Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler. Got a great show tonight. Damian Lillard's going to be shut down for the season. I'll talk about that and possibility of his future and what I think he probably should do. And it would probably be best for the struggling Portland Trailblazers. Also, a new quarterback has been talked about in the last few days. Um, a prominent former GM, NFL GM, thinks that he could have potentially been number one overall pick, and Hendon Hooker still may go very high in the draft. I haven't heard this one before. Also, Thursday, Major League Baseball season starts. I think this is one of the most anticipated seasons in the history of the game. These are major rule changes, and I'm going to talk about the shift ban and what potentially that could be for a player's batting average. Could be historically good. Got a few notes. I got an observation about the Kansas City Chiefs. I think I see a potential chink in their armor with a few missteps in the off season that they made at the offensive line. We'll talk about that and more on Sports Scope. We'll get our only break out of the way, and I'll be back here in 49 seconds, here on Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to Sports, that is Sports with an S, another S, Scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then, just a few more announcements. Tomorrow, I just got a confirmation from John. I'll have John Restano from Spitball and Sports. I was wanting to ask him. John's a big Chicago Bears fan. He has Spitball and Sports podcast. I've had him on the program before. I'll have him back on Friday. I'll have him back on tomorrow. Thursday, I'll be replaying Pickles. My interview with Mike Westhoff is currently now the assistant head coach and special teams coordinator for the Denver Broncos. Remember, he had his book, Figure It Out. I've got a few things to do Thursday, but check this out. I'm going to try to get Mike back on the program in the next few weeks or so. Hopefully next week, I'll try to get Mike Westhoff, current special teams coach for the Denver Broncos, on the program. I'll have to go through some channels, but I just wanted you all to know that. And like I said, I'm going to replay that interview Thursday. That's right, Pickles, Figure It Out by Mike Westhoff. I had to get some new tires on my car Saturday, and had to get an oil change. And I'm just about finished with the Jimmy Johnson book. And I'm telling you, it's really good. There's a story about Charles Haley in there. I'd like to get possibly Jimmy Johnson on the program. And when I finish, I'm going to go through means of doing that. But also, Jim Jeffcoat, may try to get him on the program next week, because I want to ask him about this Charles Haley story back in 1993. I'll tease it at that. Okay. All righty then. I just don't know where to start, but you know something? I think I'll go with this. Damian Lillard. Okay. Damian Lillard, been shut down for the season. They're out of it. And, he is, he's had an injury he's been dealing with. But I was reading that the Portland Trailblazers, they're wanting to shut him down for the remainder of the season. He made it known last week or so that he's not interested in rebuilding. And we obviously know that's what Portland's been doing. This guy's averaging 32 points a game, 4 rebounds, 7 assists. true point guard, but at 32 points a game, he can be a shooting guard as well. If you ask me, he said he would even play at Utah or somewhere like that. But I'll say this. Damian Lillard, he will be 33 later on this summer, okay? I still think that he can get a ring somewhere. And I think he's paid his dues at Portland. He's gave everything he's got there. He is originally from Oakland area, and I was looking up some destinations for Lillard, possibly for him. And you know what? This guy made a good point here. One thing, I need to turn my phone on silent. I was wondering why I was making all these noises. He made a good point here. This writer here and I'm going to make sure I get them right. I don't like to use other people's stuff. NBA Analysis Network. This is a website.com. We have talked about this before on the program. I talked about the NBA with Carlos Mad New Yorker Chavez on Friday about this Kings team. Plus, Pickles, you and Corey have mentioned this is a young, hungry Kings team. Sabonis is pretty much in his prime. Sabonis is in his prime. They got him for another year, past this year. Okay. De'Aaron Fox, their star, he's been re-upped. Next year as well, their six man off the bench, Malik Monk, he's going to be on their staff next year. And this NBA Analysis Network says this is a hypothetical. I think this is going to go down next summer, but it's good to talk about now. I love to play armchair general manager, and I like what this person put out here from this NBA analysisnetwork.com website.net. Excuse me. Portland Trailblazers. This is a hypothetical. Trailblazers would receive. This is a starter here. Kevin Huerter, Richaun Holmes, Keegan Murray, Davion Mitchell, a 2025 first round. Get it off again. Pick, a swap with Sacramento, a 2026 first round pick from Sacramento, a 27 first round pick, a 28 first round pick, and a 30 first round pick. And obviously the Kings would get Damian Lillard. Portland's going to need. They're going to need draft picks. Now, the NBA, when you say rebuild it, now that's a lot. I understand that. That's a lot of young players, but but you'll still have, again, you'll still have guys like Sabonis. You'll still have Malik Monk, who is under contract. All right. You'll still have, here we go. Malik Monk. You'll still have De'Aaron Fox. You'll still have Sabonis. Okay. But you're giving up Huerter and you're giving up Murray. So he's at that age. And you have players who are ready to win now with him. All right. They're going to show their youth. My guess is once the playoffs start here in the next few weeks, they're going to show their youth. Okay. His contract is up in 2 years. That his being Damian Lillard. If you get a ring in that 2 years, that means no, never mind. But also, he's 32. It'd be 34. Mind you, Steph Curry won a ring at 34. All right. Now, you put him on this team with that young, hungry talent that's in their prime. His contract's up in 2 years. You have that money available to go out and add another piece. So it's not really mortgaging away your future. Your future is now with Sabonis, with De'Aaron Fox, and of course, those two players alone, that would be fine enough to set the tone right there. You throw in this guy for a couple of years, you get this team over a top, he gets a ring. This long time drought of a team, they get a championship. And, I felt like they got robbed. They got robbed 20 years ago. They got robbed 20 years ago in that horrific series with the Lakers. We had Tim Donaghy, the referee. I think that would be interesting. This would be an interesting trade. Not to beat up on the past, folks, but if you think about it, this would be interesting, and it's not going to set you back financially because you're going to have money to pick up another free agent once Lillard maybe signing for another year. Depends on how far he goes. Maybe sign him up for another year, but you've got that cap space. Plus, you have other players still on contract there. The Kings aren't going to get anywhere where they're at now. They're as good as they're going to be because they're too good to get a really high pick. They might as well try to acquire another player to add that extra piece on. I think it's a good move. Other places, because he's going to get moved. I think they should have moved him a few years ago, and they couldn't get the right offer, and he wanted to stay, but they just cannot put the right players around Lillard. He's on the back end of his career. Thank you, Pamela. Thank you, Pamela Robertson, and thank you, Olivia. Thank you. All right. Now, so anyways, you look at those, and I was looking at these numbers by Sabonis there, their center. 19 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists. That's pretty close to the Joker, who's going to be in the running to win another MVP. He's won 2 straight with Denver, So, if it don't work out with this team, the Knicks have about 6 future first-round picks. The Knicks could potentially work out something with Lillard. I still think with that 32 points a game, I think he can become a shooting guard, or Brunson could become a shooting guard. I think he's smart enough and wise enough as a player at this age that he don't have to have the ball in his hand all the time. I think he would play off Brunson better, and I think that would work out. A lot of your Knicks fans don't want to hear that, but the Knicks are going to get put out in the first round, okay? They are of age with Brunson. They are of age with Randall, okay? Randall's 27. Brunson's 26, I want to say. 26, 25. You're going to have a 33-year-old at the start of the season. Damian Lillard, that's that extra score you need. Plus, they've got plenty of capital to set that up with. And if you're a good enough general manager, you can make it happen with the other players involved as far as matching up the salaries. Anytime that Sam Presti, for example, the general manager out of the Oklahoma City Thunder, anytime he wants to get something done, he gets it done. Whether it's a massive trade, same with Danny Ainge of Utah, same with Daryl Morey of Philadelphia. When it's a massive trade, your good general managers match up players and salaries, okay? They match up players and salaries. They make things happen. At some point, you're going to have to be aggressive and acquire a player. Go back to the Bulls. They had to be aggressive and acquire a player through the draft or through some other means, a Horace Grant, a Scottie Pippen. Those players did not fall to them naturally in the draft. Those players had to be acquired through some aggressive willing and dealing, okay? And in a perfect world, yeah, you just put everybody in on the draft in a perfect world. But Lillard is one of those players you just like to see him get a ring. He's been a team guy. He was a 4-year college guy. He's a hard player, very old school. He reminds me of a younger Dwayne Wade, and he just never quite had the talent around him. So that's food for thought for Knicks team. And last but not least, Russell Westbrook, his contract is going to expire at the end of this season. He was a late ad. You could put him with Kawhi Leonard, who is under contract, by the way. You could put him with Kawhi Leonard next year with that Clipper team, and he can make a run there. Steve Ballmer, whatever, the owner, they want a championship like nobody's business. They can use another scorer at that position and a guy not named Russell Westbrook. So those are three legit destinations for Damian Lillard. The Kings, and I mentioned that ransom, Kings and Kings ransom, right? You can't make this stuff up. The Kings, the Knicks, and the Clippers all would be legit destinations for a guy like Damian Lillard. He's not going to – a rebuild in the NFL is a rebuild. You know, people ask me all the time out of Nashville. They ask me about a rebuild with the Titans, and I say, what is a rebuild? You know, in the NFL. You know, a rebuild could be a year or two in the NFL. A rebuild could be a year or two. In the NBA, you're developing players because they're too young. Most of them are too young to be in the league. That's been my whole argument. Look how bad this NCAA tournament is. You know, if you had some players that stayed in college, and hopefully they'll work out something with the NIL, for 2 or 3 years, then you can have a guy come in and step in a year or two and make a big difference. But that's not the case. You're still developing this 19-year-old, 20-year-old, 21, 22. Then he gets ready for his next contract. He's just ready to help you win games. Now you got to pay him a big bunch of money. Then you have to balance out. So the NBA can be very frustrating. So I do think that he will get moved, and I do think those three destinations off top, I'll have to listen to other trade proposals. Maybe Philadelphia goes after him, okay? Maybe something like that will happen if it don't work out with James Harden. There's going to be some takers for Damian Lillard. He's a hardworking, blue-collar guy. Like I just mentioned, 32 points a game. He's still got it. He's on the back end. But I do think you still got those 2 years left, and his salary is worth his weight in gold, in my humble opinion. And Pickle says Ballmer can make it work for the Clips. Yeah, if he goes into the luxury tax, he don't care. He wants to win. He wants to win yesterday, Pickles. Steve Ballmer does, of the LA Clippers. I love that guy, man. He's got a lot of energy, man. All righty, then. That is it for the NBA. Okay. Interesting play. I'm out of Nashville now. University of Tennessee. They had the most successful season that I could have ever, the football team, that I could have ever imagined for in 50 years last year. There's no way I thought that Josh Heupel would have that kind of team that beat Alabama, that beat Florida, that beat LSU, and hung in there for a while with Georgia. Georgia pulled away. They turned out to be the best team in the country, historically good. And, of course, they ran out of gas, and Hendon Hooker, the quarterback there, tore his ACL in that South Carolina game. And that was my whole argument about doing these spread offenses late in the season. I digress, okay? What's this guy's name? Mike Tannenbaum? This is a former general manager of the New York Jets. This is not a clown. Now, he did get fired. He's a former general manager, right? He's the former general manager of the New York Jets, Mike Tannenbaum. But listen to what he says about former University of Tennessee player, folks, Hendon Hooker. This was today on, I want to say this was either Get Up or NFL Live. Never mind. This on ESPN. Former General Manager Mike Tannenbaum on University of Tennessee's Hendon Hooker.
Going within the first 11 picks, but the big surprise here is having Hendon Hooker at the 5 spot, the quarterback out of Tennessee going to Seattle. For comparison, Mel Kiper Jr. doesn't even have him going in the first round. So, a little bit of a shocker as we have Mike T live and in person to explain this. Because, yeah, many eyebrows were raised when people saw your mock draft and saw Mr. Hooker at the 5 spot in Seattle. Again, Mel didn't have him in the first round at all. So tell me why.
Yes, Sage, I love Hendon Hooker. He started 37 games. He transferred from Virginia Tech. And the last 2 years at Tennessee, he played great football. If he didn't tear his ACL, we may be talking about the first pick overall. He has prototypical size, and he can throw the ball over the top like we're looking at here. And in this game against Alabama, he was absolutely flawless. And Sage, if you can play great against Alabama, you can play great in the NFL. And this sets up really well for Seattle. Geno Smith for a year, let Hendon Hooker rehab, and then away you go. In terms of Anthony Richardson, I really like him as well. I have him going 11. But
Okay. He gets a little crazier there, and I'll talk about Anthony Richardson in a minute. Now, Hooker is a guy, that was what Tannenbaum says. Now, Pro Football Focus, here's a little devil's advocate here. Pro Football Focus has Hooker being on the draft on day three, which is not the second round, probably a third rounder or better, somewhere between the rounds. But they say 4 and 7, although Tennessee fans won't love the projection from Josh Heupel's offense. We need to excel in the NFL narrative change. As a runner, this is Pro Football Focus. As a runner, he's obviously very gifted, but when he breaks the pocket, he's looking almost exclusively to run, not pass. On 151 drop packs the past 2 seasons where he moved off his spot, Hooker completed only 7 passes. So that's the concern. Now, a lot of this was probably taken from the year before last, but look at his college. I mean, his numbers are unbelievable. He's 25 years old. He had 3,100 and something yards, 27 touchdowns, 2 picks in 11 games. He ran for 430 yards and 5 scores on his own. So, but he's coming back from that ACL injury. That's the thing. But you look at height, speed, big playability, decision-making, all that down the stretch here for Hooker, it looked really good. It really did look good at that time. And like Tannenbaum said, he could have potentially been the number 1 overall pick if he hadn't torn his ACL. Now, that's a big deal for a running quarterback, just like those percentages that I just read you, because when a player comes back their first year, when they come back their first year from an ACL, that's usually when they're the most gun shy, okay? Other than who was the guy here? Other than the quarterback there at Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, who goes to the World Series. I'm thinking about baseball. Who goes to the Super Bowl his second year. But guys that run and use their legs, there's a fear there that he may be a little too hesitant in the pocket and he may get crushed here. Tannenbaum says maybe he's a good guy to draft and keep on your bench for a year, and you potentially may have a star. He actually said in his mock draft that he has Seattle taking Hendon Hooker, who's a more of a poised passer than a Anthony Richards, which a lot of people, including Pete Carroll of Seattle, who's got that 5th pick, says that he really likes Anthony Richardson. And a lot of the mock drafts that I have read prior to Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle out of Georgia, getting in trouble, they did have Seattle taking him at 5. But, now that something more about Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle out of Georgia's backgrounds came out, he's his stock is slipping around all over the place. He's falling like a Titanic route. So Hooker, he's saying Hooker go 5th. The other ones have said Anthony Richardson, but he is a better passer than Richardson. He's not as thick as Richardson, not as strong as Richardson, and he has 37 starts versus 13 for Anthony Richardson, less raw. Okay. But Hooker, hey, something, the guy gets hurt, could be a total blessing in disguise. He could fall to a playoff team where he could fall to a better organization where he could sit for a year and get everything going. You know what he's capable of. He throws and he's right about this. I was watching some of those highlights from the Alabama game. He throws a well of a deep ball. He did have an interception. He did get shut down pretty much by Georgia, and he didn't really particularly play well on the road other than the LSU game. All their big wins were primarily at home. Remember, the Pittsburgh game went to overtime, but he's a guy that has improved. And that's right. He did do that LSU game. That was after a bye week. But if you look at a guy like Hooker and you see that offense, he's another guy, like I've mentioned this before, that would fit in really good in the Shane Steichen type of Philadelphia Eagles type of offense, okay? You kind of wish that the Ravens kept their former offensive coordinator, because I don't think Lamar Jackson is going to be a Raven next year. Something's going to happen. It's went too far. Something's going. If they had their former offensive coordinator, they could have used a guy like Hooker, who's a much better passer, than a Lamar Jackson was when he came out of college. Much more fluid, really good deep ball, flick of the wrist. He's got good legs, but you don't know how he's going to react. But like Mike Tannenbaum said, maybe you keep a Hendon Hooker coming in next year in 24, which he'll be 26 years old, second year of a rookie contract, but then they'll still have to move on. But that Geno Smith contract is very team friendly. So that's going to be an interesting. So that is 5. This guy says potentially 5 quarterbacks could go in the top 10. That 5 quarterbacks are not going to make it. Somebody's going to get a bill of goods. Somebody's going to get a Christian Ponder in this draft if that happens. Somebody's going to get an E.J. Manuel. Somebody's going to get a Jake Locker, Tennessee Titan fans, a guy that was way, way overdrafted about 10, 12 years ago. And Pickle says Hyatt's his favorite receiver. I've done some research on Hyatt, Pickles, and the University of Tennessee. And these Tennessee players are going to do well. Jalen Hyatt's going to play well. Darrell Wright, I think it's his name. The left tackle's actually, his stock is pretty high for the University of Tennessee. They have an edge rusher. His stock is pretty high for the University of Tennessee. Jalen Hyatt, he's being compared to Quentin Johnson, or Quentin Johnson's ranked above him at TCU. They both played against the University of Georgia. Jalen Hyatt had 6 catches, 68 yards against Georgia. I want to say Johnson had like 1 catch for like 4 yards. I think they double teamed him and shut him down. Now, he looks good, though. Got the 6'4" frame, catch the ball in traffic. But you can't say that Hyatt looked really good. I think Hyatt's probably going to go in the 2nd or 3rd round, the University of Tennessee receiver. But Tennessee was setting the world on fire. They had the number 1 offense in all of college football for a long time, for 11 games in the SEC. That is the best conference in America by a long shot now. It's not even really close. I mean, I understand how good Ohio State is with their NFL wide receiving core. I understand that Michigan has came a long way. TCU, great storyline. Oklahoma always have their share of pros. No disrespect towards their players, but the SEC is just that much more better now. It's unbelievably good. And they were tearing it up at the nation's best conference. Okay. So some of these players are going to make it, kind of like Alabama. And it's really sad that Alabama, we had COVID that year, but that year that Mac Jones and Alabama had in 2020 was unbelievable. Tennessee's offense was very close to that. Tennessee's offense was very close to the 2019 LSU Joe Burrow team. They had Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson on there as wide receivers, just to name a few players. But they were right there with the rival. He also has, he ran a 4.4 at the combine, And Pickle says, that's unbelievable. They beat LSU, Alabama, and Florida. All three of those teams have multiple NFL draft picks on them. Okay. Now, Mike Tannenbaum, the general manager, he also says that the Titans are going to take Anthony Richardson at 11. I could not further disagree with Tannenbaum on that one. They've already got an Anthony Richardson on the roster. His name is Malik Willis. We don't know how good of offseason he's going to have. Tennessee's got a new offensive coordinator. They have needs on the offensive line. There's no way they're going to take Anthony Richardson with that 11th pick overall. That would be foolish, in my opinion. Tennessee may move a player or two before the draft and accumulate more picks, but I seriously doubt they're going to take Richardson. If they do, I'll get on here and admit that I'm wrong. Listen to what he says. I'll actually play you that soundbite, foolish soundbite by Mike Tannenbaum on ESPN, also saying this.
I really like him as well. I have him going 11, but he only played 13 games as a starter, and he's 115th in the country in completion percentage. Now, that'll get better, but that won't happen overnight. So in terms of when you look at the body of work as players in the fall, Hendon Hooker simply has outplayed Anthony Richardson, despite Anthony Richardson's magical offseason.
Yeah, that's so interesting because you had Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, and I think he kind of said that sarcastically. And Anthony Richardson's great offseason. Well, a lot of people can study for the combine. You know exactly what the throws are going to be. That can be taken the wrong way. I don't think he meant it that way, but it did sound like he was trying to say that about Anthony Richardson. Yeah, he just don't have enough starts for me. Guy could be the best player in the draft. But, I was listening to a draft analyst on the Colin Cowherd show this morning from Monday's program, and he's saying, a lot of the scouts simply think that Bryce Young out of Alabama, yes, he is the most polished guy out there. He's got the quick release. He's got the best pocket awareness. He never plays too fast. He stays out of harm's way, but he's 5'10", guys, and 192 pounds. And you look at other small players, Kyler Murray, for example, Tua. Those are two players that are getting blasted in this league, and they're not getting any bigger. And the competition's getting bigger faster. Nolan Smith, by the way, the edge rusher, the Nolan Smith, he talked about the combine, Pickles. He ran in the 4.3s as an edge rusher at the combine. Nolan Smith, the edge rusher. Not even the defensive tackle, Jalen Carter. This guy is considered second to Carter as far as the bigger prospect because he's not over top of the ball. Carter's being compared to Aaron Donald out of the LA Rams. And he could make a splash. They've been very quiet. Tennessee Titans have been very quiet. But I thought that was an interesting take there on Hendon Hooker. Also at the owners' meetings, Rich Simani, the writer for the Jets, says the Jets owner, Woody Johnson, is anxious to finalize a trade for Rodgers. You just hate to see quotes like that get out if you're a Jets fan. The Jets, I've told you this the other day, and I'll say it again, they want to hang on to that 13th pick. They also feel like they need to add to their tackle position on the offensive line. One mock draft, Mel Kiper has them taking Broderick Jones out of Georgia, the left tackle there, to add in. They've got 2 second-round picks. Give one of them to Green Bay, and maybe even giving them a conditional second next year, maybe even a conditional first next year if he plays 2 years, But he may retire. He's saying I'm 90% retired. I still say, by the way, there was also a report saying that Rodgers has not answered the phone for Brian Gutekunst. He's not answering. So how awkward would it be if you're going through all of your mini camps, your training camps with Jordan Love, working with Christian Watson in this first unit wide receiving core, and then you have an Aaron Rodgers come up there in September and wanting to play, blowing off training camp and everything. It's just awkward. It's going to be bad for your locker room. You've invested 3 years into Jordan Love at this point. It's time to move on. Let's get off our high horse with we must have a first-round pick. Now they're saying they don't necessarily need a first-round pick. So what's the holdup then, Green Bay? But, the Jets, they don't help themselves. Now, Woody Johnson's no spring chicken, but he's going around telling people he's anxious to get the deal over and not being done yet. So we'll see. I still think that the Jets, if they can't get what they're asking for, they should walk away from the Rodgers deal, and they should look at one of these quarterbacks. Worst case, if it don't play out, just try again next year. Continue to build your pieces. They had the offensive rookie of the year last year. They had the defensive rookie of the year. Joe Douglas has hit on a lot of these pieces. He really has. Quentin Williams, he's a good player, defensive tackle. They've got a lot of pieces. They add some pieces to the offensive line. They've added help at the wide receiver position with Alan Lazard, Garrett Wilson. They're not that bad. Breece Hall's coming back. Really good player there. They didn't give Michael Carter the ball enough, if you ask me. He had a good rookie year himself. The rookie second-year player out of Ole Miss. I think he was out of Ole Miss. I might have had it mixed up. But that was just another one of my notes that I read off of a screenshot here, just in case I forgot. Okay. One more football story, and then I'm going to move to Major League Baseball because the season starts Thursday. But I think full opening day is going to be on April 1st. And I want to say that is, Friday? Or let's see, when is April 1st here? April 1st, yeah, Saturday. Yeah, Saturday, you're going to see a slew of baseball games. But opening night, the Giants play, and they're going to be playing on March the 30th. Today's the 28th, excuse me. Yeah, the 30th. The 30th will be technically the first game in MLB season. Staying in football, though, I think that Kansas City, they're starting to feel themselves a little bit, the Chiefs. I like everything Brett Veach has done up to this point. I understand that when you've got a contract like Mahomes, if anybody's worth the contract, he is. They've got 2 World Series championships. But I do think they got a little cute pickles. I think they got away from their core of what they believe in, which is get Patrick Mahomes weapons and get him protected. Mainly get him protected. Over all things, I was a big fan of moving off of Tyreek Hill. They only won the Super Bowl. They're okay without Tyreek Hill. Let the Dolphins pay him $30 million. But anyways, all right, so I was reading over this CBS ranking of some of the worst trades, some of the worst free agent moves. And one of them was this Taylor Lawson. Let me make sure I got his name right. He is the White Sox and Houston will play Thursday at 6. That's the first game. I think so. Opening night, yeah. Side note there. So I'm looking here for this, and I'm telling you. Okay, here we go. CBS, best and worst free agent signings. Worst, he says, offensive tackle. This is from CBS. Jawan Taylor. Now, mind you, this team lost Orlando Brown. Remember, they didn't want to pay Orlando Brown. He ends up going to Cincinnati. They let him walk. They traded a first-round pick for him 2 years ago after they got beat in the Super Bowl pretty handily by the Tampa Bay Bucks because both of their tackles got hurt before the Super Bowl, and they never could replace them. They couldn't smudge it up for one game. Can you imagine a whole season? And they've also lost right tackle Andrew Wallet, who went to the Washington Commanders. All right. So they jump out on the gun. They signed Jawan Taylor, who has a little bit of experience in the pros and that much little more experience in the college level, University of Florida, at the left tackle. He's played right tackle most of his career for the Jaguars. Okay. And, you know, when they let Brown walk and they signed this guy, I'm thinking, well, he's a right tackle. Maybe. Then I was reading they were trying to get Laremy Tunsil, who was a left tackle, graded very high, top 10, just about every metric in according to Pro Football Focus. Tunsil is. He's rated as a higher guy than Brown, but Brown has been protecting Patrick Mahomes for 2 years now, holding it down. All right. So they let Tunsil walk. All right. And then they let Brown walk, and they didn't. Houston ends up re-upping Tunsil for a 3-year extension, paying him a lot of money. This mock draft has them taking a wide receiver at 31 because Miami lost their draft picks. There's only 31 picks in the first round. And remember, they lost Juju Smith-Schuster and Mecole Hardman in free agency. So this Brett Veach, it's got them taking another receiver at that pick there, at that 31 pick. Now, this guy has hit home runs on the offensive line, draft them over the last 3 years with Trey Smith, University of Tennessee guy, had lung issues. He had internal issue, kidney or lung issue or something like that. It scared teams away. He was a 5th-round pick, but he's first-round talent. His name was Trey Smith, University of Tennessee. When this guy was recruited to Tennessee, he was a number 1 player overall out in the country. He's a Tennessee native. That's the only reason that he fell for like the 5th round. Then he turns around, Brett Veach, and drafts Creed Humphrey. So he's almost overconfident at this point. And my whole thing is that I think that Mahomes' contract is starting to catch up with Kansas City, and you got to protect him. He's a valuable asset. He is the asset. You know, him and Andy Reid's the 1-2 punch. So my thing is that I think he got a little too cute there, and I think they're probably going to need a left tackle, and I think that possibly he could get Mahomes hurt, poo-pooing that left tackle position. Back-to-back Super Bowls, tough. Yeah. And so maybe this is a down year for Kansas City. I know the fans don't really care. I like the Chiefs, but if you look at that division, Denver's going to be better. And I'm going to hope to get Mike Westhoff on again. Denver's going to be much better. And the Chargers, remember, they got Keelan Moore now at offensive coordinator. I like the move. I like what Dallas did. Now, everybody else don't like it, but I like what Dallas did. And I think Keelan Moore, former Dallas offensive coordinator, I think that Charger team, they're primed and ready to win that division, okay? I think this is going to be a year where they fall. Kansas City probably falls to a wild card or may not even make it. And the reason will probably be because Mahomes going to get hurt because he overlooked that left tackle position this year. I hope not. He's good for the league. I like Patrick Mahomes. He's must-see TV. I remember Tennessee was blowing him out a couple years ago. And I was telling my dad, please don't let him hurt Mahomes. I mean, I love the Titans and everything. but this guy's a face of the league. He's must-see TV. But, you know, he's so talented that he's so talented that I think that you get overconfident around him, you know. I think you get overconfident around putting players around him because he is he's such a talented, and Andy Reid's such a good schemer there, you know. So we'll see how it works out. I'm not sure how big a deal it is, but when you get a guy that ain't really played left tackle and you put him over at left tackle, and then you're putting another guy at right tackle that you're kind of just sliding him in, that might look okay for a game or two, but over a season, that could really catch up with you. That could really catch up with a team. All righty then. Let's see. All righty then. Let's see. Okay, Major League Baseball will start Pickles on Thursday. I think I just said it. Okay, ESPN says opening night, the White Sox at Houston will play Thursday. Now, the regular season will open up on Saturday, April 1st, and that is not a April Fool's joke, okay? So, so I was looking at and thinking about some things here. All right, now, if you think about it, I was thinking about this last 3 or 4 days with these shifts. You cannot, like, for instance, the infield, they have to stay. I was reading this in The Athletic. They have to stay in the dirt for when you get a power hitter like a Aaron Judge or somebody. You get a guy like that. Okay, the infield cannot shift out of that dirt, so they have to stay within the bases. Plus, the bases are bigger. All right, and we're going to have these time clocks. So my thing is, the analytics are going to be flipped a little bit. Not everybody. It's not going to be strikeout or home run. You see a guy like Aaron Judge who hit over 300 last year, and he's a power guy. Well, what does that tell you? That means that he can hit a ball in the outfield that is just enough to go over the shortstop's head, but it drops before the outfielder can get to it. That is called a base hit. You're going to see more and more of that. Well, normally if the shift's on, it's not going to go over the guy's head because the shift is going to be you're going to have your shortstop or your second baseman playing shadow center or shadow left field, folks, if you think about it that way. All right. So I was looking at this and I'm thinking to myself that somebody is going to hit close to 400, if not over 400. Okay. Somebody's going to hit close to 400, if not over 400. And I looked up this story. Again, this is on The Athletic, and this was wrote way back in September of last year. Okay. And this writer, see if I can get his name here right. Eno Saris, and there was another writer here, Jeremy Frank. But he's saying that these shifts here would help players such as Corey Seager of the Texas Rangers the most, Cal Tucker, Max Kepler. Basically, you start wondering how high the batting average can go. He's saying for those lefties, pull hitters, you can add 20 to 30 points to their batting average, perhaps, with this. Most outs made, this is a guy named Jeremy Frank. He put this out. He said most outs made on ground balls, line drives, hits into shifts, in air quotes, 3 men on one side this year. Corey Seager, Cal Tucker, Max Kepler, Herbert Ruiz, Charlie Blackman, Marcus. This is just players who were hitting those directions. All these players, and some of these guys are hitting over 300. I know Seager is as of last year. But if you think about just really good hitters, for example, like this guy, what is his name? I'm going to make sure I got it right so I don't mess it up. Jeff O'Neill for the Mets, he hit 326 last year. Freddie Freeman hit 325. Paul Goldschmidt, 317. Goldschmidt can hit good any year. And for the little, I haven't watched baseball intensely since like 2007. I've been a casual fan. Over the last year, I've paid more attention to it than I have the 15 before that. Okay? This year, I'm watching like opening day. I'm going to follow as much as I possibly can. But I'm thinking to myself, you get a guy like Aaron Judge is the modern day, but slightly more talented Frank Thomas. All right? You think about that, Pickles. If you wanted him to say, okay, I hit 311 last year, but if I'm not swinging towards the fence at certain times, I might hit close to 400 this year. Now, this guy's saying 25 to 30. I think it can go up more than you study these outfielders or study, the metrics of the baseball and everything. Some strategy put involved in this. Really strong players can pull balls to the opposite side of the field. You know, some of these guys watch film. They take this stuff serious. So you're not going to have as many. You probably have some more home runs, but you're going to have a lot more hit it. So I just looked up to see what's the record. Basically, what I'm saying is the potential all-time single-season record could be broken, starting with that's how serious the shift bands can be. So the all-time best season for batting average is this guy named Nap Lajoie, Pickles. Do you know who that is? Well, he played in 1901, and he hit 426 for the entire season. Okay? Ty Cobb, we all know who he is. He's crazy. Ty Cobb hit 424, and the great Ted Williams, who a lot of people really consider possibly the greatest hitter of all time, right, Pickles? In 1941, hit 406. Ted Williams hit. So let's just go off Ted Williams, okay? In 1941, he hits 406. That could be, if not this year, Pickles. Okay, so that was in 41. Let me make sure that's right. The last one to hit 400. And he hit 406. Yeah, you're right, Pickles. You're right. And not anybody even close. Now, I'll check that here. Now, in 94, Tony Gwynn hit 394. So if Tony Gwynn played in this non-shifting era, he could probably hit 410 maybe. 410, 415. So there's a potential for 400 to be hit this year and over 400 next year, according to this. Plus, we're going to have quicker baseball games. We're going to have more no-hitters because pitchers can stay into it was during World War II. Had a run at 400. I want to see what Pete Rose had just to be on just for the. I've got this list here. I wonder if he was the best hitter of his time. Babe Ruth's listening here. George Brett, it's in here at 390. Okay, Ted Williams again. Ty Cobb again. Ty Cobb was a great hitter. Joe Jackson, Joe DiMaggio, Al Simmons, 381. I mean, this is some well-ified hitters. Rose is not in. I think Rose is still the all-time hit leader, but I don't think he ever led the league. But some of this is going to get broken because of shifting. And you look at the fact that the athletes are better today. They're more studied today. The diet is better today. So it's going to be interesting. I said on the Mac and Jack and Jim Jeffcoat show, I thought maybe the Mets would beat with Verlander. I think maybe the Mets would end up beating Houston in the World Series. That's a wild guess from a guy who follows it very casually. But according to FanDuel, Houston's still favorite. But yeah, Pickles, the Braves are second, plus 750. They're tied for second with the LA Dodgers at plus 750. The Yankees plus 850. The Mets at fifth. The Mets at fifth plus 900. I guess it'd be fourth since the Braves and Dodgers are tied. The Padres plus 1,000. The Blue Jays plus 1,200. Now, remember Philadelphia went last year. They're plus 1,500. Those are the teams I've been hearing about that are going to be much better this year than last year, especially the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are supposed to be much better. The Cardinals are plus 2,000 according to FanDuel. Now, the Cardinals have always had good players. They've had good management. They've had a good farm system. The Cardinals could be a bow there. So it's going to be an interesting season. Again, I think it's the most anticipated season. I'm 41 in my whole life in baseball. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, so I do think that it's this is going to be a great season. Also, look at the World Baseball Classic, folks. People's very excited to watch the World Baseball Classic. You can see the crowds into it. I've been trying to get Kavarius Tears. He hasn't got back to me. I think he's probably feeling the pressure right now of doing college work and stuff. He plays for the University of Tennessee. He's in the starting lineup. But my whole point is they've been playing for 6 weeks in college. How come the Major League Baseball won't take advantage of the month of February? There's no football in February or even March, right? There's no football in March. Maybe Major League Baseball, I would love to see baseball being pushed up about a month and have the world have very serious games in the month of July. August, the playoffs start, and then the World Series be around Labor Day weekend. Pickles, I don't think it's too much of a I do not think it's too much of a stretch. I do not think it's too much of a stretch to make that proposal. 14 for Bay. Yeah, I think he's the all-time hits leader. I'm just looking at single season hits, single season batting average, and I don't see him in here. I don't see single season batting average. You get a lot of Ty Law, Rod Carew, George Brett, players like Tony Gwynn. Tony Gwynn's the best one of my time watching. 394 is pretty good. 394 for Tony Gwynn is pretty good. The late, great Tony Gwynn. Love Tony Gwynn. Good contact hitter. Very good contact hitter. Really looking forward to the baseball season. I'm not saying – I used to say that sarcastically because baseball has had some down years. But to baseball's defense, man, they really made some changes, and they're going into effect officially starting Thursday, and then April 1st, Saturday. We got a whole slew of opening day. I'm sure Pickles yourself is going to be really hyped up to see see the new season, particularly the Braves. A lot of people are high on the Braves. Jack Hirsch, writer there for boxing writer, but he picked the Braves a few years ago. Now he's picking the Braves again to win because they got Ron Acuna back to win the World Series. I mean, they're going to be there. They're playing better. This group of Braves players, I feel like they're better than the 90s guys because they've already been to 2 World Series and they've already won one. So, anyways, if you like the show, share the show. Again, tomorrow we're going to have John Ristano on from Spitballin' Sports. John, if you're watching, brother, I'm going to have you on about 25 minutes after the hour, and we'll talk about the Bears off season. I want to get your opinion on what do you think the Bills are doing so far. All right. Again, I'll see you tomorrow, folks. Same time, same place here on Sports Scope.